Hi, I'm Caden here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 14 recap episode, a huge slate of pretty damn good football games. Coming into this week, I didn't love all the matchups, but they all ended up being pretty good, relatively close games. So a good little surprise for
And
this
there was
week.
a season high 8 upsets where 8 underdogs won this week. So
I did not know that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just one of those weeks for sure. Before we jump into some of those games, though, just a couple tidbits of news. Most very sad news for their team and the NFL in general. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert will miss the rest of the season with a finger injury that he sustained on Sunday. And Dolphins guard Connor Williams will miss the rest of the season as well with a torn ACL, which happened just last night at the time of us recording this on Monday Night Football. So tough stuff there for those teams, but we're going to move on to a game that might have been even tougher than both of those injuries because we have
it was tough to watch.
We have the Minnesota Vikings heading to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders and winning by a barn-burning score of 3-0 with all three, count them, 3 points happening in the fourth quarter with about 3 minutes left. So nice little poetry right there. But it was a game. I sat there, I watched all of it, I cheered for the one turnover, and it was a game is about all I have to say about it. I mean, Josh Dobbs didn't throw any turnovers, or have any turnovers at all, rather, but he also didn't really have any yards. I think he ended with only 86 yards after playing the entire 3 first quarters. And then Nick Mullins come in and outpassed him in just the fourth quarter alone and put up those 3 points, which ended up being the winning 3 points. So there's just not much to talk about. Brian Flores is a hero. He is the only thing keeping us alive, and Cam Bynum might be the best safety in the league if you really want to talk about it. Just his run support, his ability to get his nose up there in the run game while still playing solid man-to-man coverage and absolutely shutting down the deep middle and deep half in those deep zones as a free safety. I mean, he leads the league in tackles right now for a safety. Just point out a safety who's playing better football than Cam Bynum right now. It's insanity. Like I said, our defense is the only thing holding us in. I mean, Justin Jefferson comes in, plays about 2 drives, and then leaves the game and has to go to the hospital. He's probably going to miss a couple of other weeks now with a chest injury. We haven't had Kirk Cousins the entire season. Brian O'Neill and Alexander Mattison both leave during this game and don't come back. Our offense is just in complete shambles, and our defense is in the most pristine state it's been since like 2017. So highly confusing season, of course, capped off here by a 3-0 win, but a win's a win, I guess.
Yeah, a win's a win. Hey, you know what I said last week? The Vikings or the Raiders weren't going to be able to score any points against that Vikings defense, and I was right. I didn't think that the Vikings were going to score so low. In fact, both the Vikings and the Minnesota Wild of the NHL won their games on Sunday 3-0, which is the first time a NFL and NHL team has won the game by the same score.
That's amazing. That makes me so happy.
At least you're setting record-breaking history here. So
if the Vikings know how to do something, it is break records. Last year we had the biggest comeback and the most wins in a one-score game. This year we're just matching hockey scores left and right this season. It's a historical season. We'll call it that. I just got a chance to really look at the box score here on my screen, and just to see those 7 boxes of 0 and then just the 1-3 at the end it's hilarious. It was hilarious.
Quite a game.
Quite a game, yeah, sure.
One for the record books.
So now moving on to a much, much more entertaining game. Maybe not for Packers fans, but much more entertaining. We have the Green Bay Packers heading to New York to take on the Giants, and they got lasagnaed by Tommy DeVito and the Giants by a score of 24-22.
Yeah, it was a stressful one. It wasn't an entertaining one. It was a stressful one. Jordan Love was off for whatever reason. He was off. He didn't really get it going to the fourth quarter, and really the end of the fourth quarter, when he was finally able to connect for a touchdown pass to Malik Heath twice, I want to say, because one was knocked out of his hands by Jason Pinnock, and then he went right back to Malik Heath for a second touchdown, but only that one counted. It was kind of funny. He knocked over the ref. So the ref was getting up, and everybody was sitting there waiting.
What is it?
And then the ref gets up, and he puts his hands up, and Malik Heath goes running off. And, it was the go-ahead touchdown. We had our chance. I'll say we had our chance. We've had our chance in most of these games that we've lost. So we were up. We turned over to our defense, and they went to the prevent. And the prevent prevents you from winning. And that happened because DeVito was able to just dink and dunk his way into field goal position. And by the time we turned it into a tight defensive formation, it was just too late. And, I said that if we kept the Giants under 200 yards rushing, we would win the game. Well, the Giants had 209 yards rushing. So, like I said, we couldn't hold them under 200. We didn't deserve to win that game.
Yeah, the prevent defense is rough there. I noticed it automatically when DeVito is just taking free 5-yard curls and they were turning into 10, 15 yards of play. But if you're not up by 2 possessions, I don't know how you justify the prevent defense.
No.
They had over 2 minutes. They had the 2-minute warning and a timeout. I mean, time wasn't that much of a factor.
They had 2 timeouts, but it was after the 2-minute warning.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
But still, they had 2 opportunities to stop the clock, and you only need a field goal. Time's not that much of a factor in today's NFL in a situation such as that one. So I don't know how you go prevent there. I think you just stick with your regular defense.
I don't know.
That go-ahead touchdown by Heath, though, was a beauty of a catch. I can't believe he held on to that thing.
He just broke the plane of the goal line by reaching over for the catch.
Big-time strong hands. Do you think that first one was a touchdown?
I thought it was. He took 2 steps, and then it was knocked out. So he had possession. He never bobbled it. He had it and took 2 steps forward. And then it was knocked out. If anything, I was afraid it was going to be a fumble. I was like, wait a minute now, man. We should just be happy with the incomplete pass because next thing you know, that turns into a fumble. And I didn't even know what happened with the ball. So, yeah, it ends up probably being a touchback.
Yeah, that was a crazy situation. I don't think it was a catch, but I think that's more biased just because I don't like that rule, the catch it in 3-step in the end zone rule and get it slapped out. I think if you're not hitting the ground and it's getting knocked out by the ground, you should have to, hold on to the ball or else it's a hustle play by the corner. But I need to look into that rule more. That's just biased because I don't like it that much. But it was certainly an entertaining game to watch.
It's funny how the catch rules change when you're in the end zone compared to anywhere else on the field.
Well, and the fact that they change literally yearly anymore.
And
You'll
that
get
too.
At least one new rule. So
Yep.
it's hard to keep
There's
up
something new every year that's like, damn, now we got to figure this out.
It really is. It's crazy. So now moving on from our games to our game of the weeks, starting off with mine, and I have a good one here with the Bills heading to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs and just eking out a win by a score of 20-17. Now, of course, the big elephant in the room with this one, before you can talk about anything else, is I almost said Isaiah Pacheco, but he didn't even play, which definitely hurt the Chiefs' offense. The Kadarius Toney offsides penalty. If you ask me, I have seen a couple of angles where it maybe looks like he isn't offsides, but I have seen the straight down the line angle and a lot of other angles that made it look blatant. If you ask me, my opinion, which doesn't matter, but my opinion is he was very much offsides. It's a good thing that it was called. He never really looks over to the ref to make sure he's okay, and because of that and him blatantly being offsides, the ref throws the flag. Sure, it was an awesome play. It was so cool the way Kelsey threw it crossfield and Toney scored, and it would have been really hyped if it would have counted. But nonetheless, it shouldn't have counted. It shouldn't count just because it was a cool play. So that's more than anything why I picked this game. I sadly didn't get to watch much of it. I say sadly because it seemed like a really good game. I just kind of saw highlights here and there. Josh Allen carrying an entire defense on his back to get a touchdown like he does weird amount of times for a quarterback.
Yep.
But yeah, really good game by the Bills and the Chiefs. Sucks that it has to come to a controversial ending like that, but nonetheless, I personally think the refs got it right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, if that's the call, that's the call. It's interesting if this was an illegal shift or a false start. I guess a false start would have been a dead ball penalty, but an illegal shift or an illegal formation, then that is where the play is carried out still usually.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting if that was the call and not offsides on the offense, just because it's such a rare instance, because those receivers can usually check with the refs.
Yep.
And they usually tell them if they are offsides or if they're good, or they usually are pretty lenient with that. So
yeah, if you ever see when a receiver puts a thumbs up to the ref and the ref either goes like this or like this, and it means he's on the ball or off the ball, because you have to have the certain formation or else you get an illegal formation. But he never checked with the ref, and then he lined up off sides. That's why they had to end up calling.
Yep. So that ended up being the call. But this was quite the game for the Bills. This is, I believe, going to be a monumental win for them that turns around their season. They kind of had to win this to keep in the hunt in the AFC playoff picture. They're not even in the playoffs right now, but they had to do it just to stay alive. Josh Allen literally carried the team on his back. Like you said, he carried this whole defense into the end zone. It was a little bit of a push, a little rugby
Oh, the
scrum.
lineman definitely helped it.
But yeah, he definitely showed up and proved why he can be an MVP caliber player any season in any game. He took over this game, and it really is overshadowed by the penalty and by the play that happened or didn't happen, I guess, so to speak. But I think that really not enough is being said about Josh Allen and the Bills and how big of a win this is going to be for them when we look back on the rest of this season.
Yep. 2 little footnotes from me on this one. This ties up Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes record-wise, but they're both 3-3 against each other now. But the difference is Josh Allen is 3-1 against Mahomes in the regular season, and Mahomes is 2-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs. So he wins when it's needed, but can't really get it done in the regular season. And another little useless opinion from me, but I'm all fine with players having a hissy fit and yelling on the sideline, letting the emotion get the best of them. But during the end of the game handshakes, during the handshake and hug between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, Mahomes looked Allen in the eye and said that it was the worst effing call he's ever seen. And I mean, didn't quote this one, but he pretty much said, like, you didn't deserve that win to his face during the after game handshake. If you really read into that, that's what that means. So, but yeah, the quote was, that's the worst effing call I've ever seen. An offsides penalty at that point in the game, or something along those lines. Classless there. I don't like that at all.
I knew that Mahomes had a fit in the post game and the press conference afterwards, and so did Andy Reid too. They were both spouting about it, but I didn't know that he went to Josh Allen and said that. That's pretty bizarre and almost, I would say, borderline disrespectful. Because at that point, just put it aside and call it a good game. You guys both went out there and battled your hearts out. And yeah, it came down to a stupid penalty. Most of the games the NFL do. Because,
sadly, yes.
Because, that's just how it is. There's rules and there's fouls, and you can't do everything. You can't do anything. Or you can't do everything and you can't do anything all the time. So we'll have to see how it goes. And I think, like I said, I think that looking back, this will end up being a big game for the NFL to look back on at the end of this season.
Certainly, huge one. And then finally, for Callan's game of the week, we have another hugely exciting one, of course, with the Los Angeles Rams heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And the Ravens win in overtime by a score of 37-31 on a walk-off touchdown.
Yep, it was a walk-off punt return touchdown by Tylan Wallace. And it will be the second time that a punt return touchdown was a walk-off punt return this year, with the first one being in week 1 with the Jets. And Isaiah what was his name?
Xavier
Gibson for the Jets. But back to the Ravens, this was quite a game between the Ravens and the Rams. First off, to get to overtime, the Rams and Matthew Stafford had to lead a last-minute drive downfield just to tie it with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So for that to happen, that was pretty crazy in itself, and that's just to get to overtime before the punt return touchdown, which just capped off in a crazy game in the rain in Baltimore.
Yeah, this one I did get to watch more of, with it being a noon game, which I was happy about because this is a really fun game to watch all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
It was really close the entire time. I mean, I kind of thought the Ravens were going to come out and just absolutely dominate, but the Rams kept up with them and actually had the lead at a couple points in the game early on in the first and second half. So really impressive for them to put together that whole game, considering they've kind of had a rough and tumble couple of seasons ever since winning that Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But it just goes to show that no matter how old he is, how many injuries he's gone through, Matthew Stafford just has that clutch gene. Like you said, the way that he's able to go against one of the best defenses in the league, no doubt, especially at that linebacking core, which a linebacker can wreak havoc on a quarterback. And they have two really good linebackers. So tough stuff there for Matthew Stafford, but he's able to drive down the field, get the touchdown, get the 2-point conversion to tie it, take it into overtime, and then he had his chance. The Rams defense stopped him. They punted to the Rams. The Rams sadly had to punt away too, and then, as we already talked about, rest is history. Tylan Wallace made sure the game ended right there and no offenses had to go back on the field. But nonetheless, if you didn't get to watch this game or anything like that, go watch some highlights, because back and forth shootout all the way through.
Nice catches by Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp on the final drive to extend that game. And boy, it was just a lot of big plays. And it's kind of crazy because it was raining the whole game. Usually you don't see that a lot with the excitement back and forth with the rain. But it was quite the one to watch in the rain in Baltimore.
Yeah, OBJ made some good catches too, and Puka Nacua took his gloves off even. The rain was so bad because it makes those receiver gloves slippery, and he was still making those crazy catches. So great stuff all around. So that was our NFL Week 14 recap. Thank you all so much for watching, and make sure you stay tuned in until tomorrow when we have our Week 15 predictions. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.